Good afternoon and welcome to episode 4 of the best show on radio. Well, not technically radio. I guess it's more
on SoundCloud.
SoundCloud, Twitter, basically like the whole internet sphere. Anyways, welcome to episode 4 of Fourth and Inches. I'm Nate Smith.
I'm Jordan D'Souza.
And this is Cree here.
Once again, folks, another wild NFL Sunday is in the books. Week 4, wow. A lot of action to catch you guys up on. But first, as always, how was your weekend, boys?
My weekend was pretty fantastic. My mother came to visit. It was nice to see her. Haven't seen her in a while, so that was good to catch up. How about you, Cree?
Well, yeah, luckily me and Nate both got to benefit from Jordan's mother coming. Had a little Rosh Hashanah fest.
Mm-hmm. Very traditional Rosh Hashanah meal.
Made the traditional Jewish meal. Had some nice chicken, challah,
brisket, potatoes,
mazel tov, basically.
Yeah,
yeah, but it was a great weekend. Lots of football, great college games as well as NFL games, and just ready to get after it with my boys now.
Yeah, I'm personally a Christian, but having some Jewish flair in the apartment this weekend was a good change of pace.
Have you ever personally been to a bar mitzvah?
I've been to one. I think it was 7th or 8th grade. It was quite lit. I honestly wish I could have gone to more.
Was it a bar or bat mitzvah?
Bar is for man, right?
Bar is for man, yeah.
Okay, then it was a bar mitzvah. It's for my friend Gator. His name is Gator.
That cannot be kosher. That cannot be a kosher name.
It was a pretty lit time, I will admit. I wish I went to more, honestly. I might just throw one for my son, even though I'm not Jewish, just because it looks like a great time. But then again, maybe not, because that'll just cost a lot of money, and I don't want to spend that money.
I will say, during my bar mitzvah, being lifted up on the chair is easily going to go down as like a top 5 memory in my life. Like, number 1, obviously, when I have my first child, getting married, maybe like first job, like real job, and then being lifted up on the chair with Hava Nagila blasting in the background and your entire family just raging their faces off.
Yeah, that's the song of the summer, no doubt. But
for years, 2012 up to 2015, song of the summer.
Actually, when I was in around 7th grade and then a little bit into 8th grade also, I grew up in a predominantly Jewish community, Agora Hills, California. And, I went to like maybe 15 or 20 bar and bat mitzvahs, and they were absolutely the cat's pajamas. We were raging off the Sprite and ginger ale, and it was just a great time. Everyone got to dress up and act a little fancy for once. So always a good time with the bar mitzvah.
Yeah, like 7th to 8th grade, that was definitely like bar mitzvah season. Like that year and a half, that's when all the bar mitzvah happened. It's kind of like leap year, but it like only happens once. See, obviously I've been out of bar mitzvah season for a while, but I gotta say my number 1 like bar mitzvah memory, it was one of my friend's bat mitzvahs. And I was in her Hebrew school, so she brought up the entire gang in the Hebrew school to come up and light one of the candles. And then the guy who was DJing it was like, okay, here's the wine. One of you take a sip of the wine. And we were all like, no, we can't really drink this wine. What? And he's like, yeah, come on, drink the wine. And me being a wild boy as I am, I just take that little cup of Manischewitz to the dome. And I was feeling pretty good the rest of the night. That's a safe assumption. But it was a great time. True story. You think I made that up? That's a true story. I swear to God.
Nothing like a sip of the old Jewish wine. And that pretty much wraps up the weekend. Now let's get to the real action. And here we go with the Week 4 rapid recap. Kicking things off on Thursday night, Cincinnati topped Miami 22-7. Miami looked awful, as usual. They fall to 1-3. Cincinnati 2-2. A.J. Green dominated the game with 10 receptions for 173 yards and a tutty. Colts-Jags, little London action. Battle of two teams who are not very good. Jags pull this one out for their first win, 30-27. Allen Robinson, 5 receptions, 55 yards, and a tutty. Titans and Texans. The Texans take this one 27-20 to get back to winning ways. They improved to 3-1 on the season. Will Fuller the fifth. 2 total touchdowns, 1 receiving, and 1 punt return. This rookie is electric. Browns and the Skins. Browns drop to 0-4. Skins take this one 31-20. Jordan Reed, 73 yards, 2 touchdowns. Seahawks and Jets. The Jets' woes continue. They dropped to 1-3 on the year. The Hawks take this one 27-17. Russell Wilson, 309 yards, 3 touchdowns. Big day, little man. Chugging right along here, we have Broncos at Bucks. Broncos take care of business 27-7, but at what cost? Trevor Siemian exits the game with a shoulder injury. 2 studly receiver performances. Demaryius Thomas, 94 yards and a touchdown. Emmanuel Sanders, 88 yards and a touchdown. That is a dynamic duo. Rams at Cardinals. The Rams take this one 17-13. They improved to 3-1. The Dirty Birds of Arizona dropped to 1-3. Brian Quick, 69 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns. Saints and Chargers. This one was a shootout. Saints and Chargers both leave this game with 1-3 records. Saints get their first win on the year. Breeze, 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, but also 2 picks. Not his best day. Chiefs and Steelers, 43-14. The Steel Curtain gets back on top after getting blown out by Philly last week. The Steelers improved to 3-1. Big Ben, 300 yards passing and 5 touchdowns. What a day. And now we will transition over to our top 5 most important games of the week, starting with the Buffalo Bills and the New England Patriots. This one was played at Foxborough with a result that not many saw coming. Yes, the Pats were down to their third-string quarterback, but still, they've been playing very good football. The Pats lost this one by a score of 16-0. So the question is, did Rex Ryan rally the troops? Are the Bills back?
I think that there's definitely something like weird going on just in like Buffalo in general. I mean, 2 games into the season, the Bills fire their offensive coordinator, and then right after that, their defense like shuts down 2 of the best offenses in the NFL. That doesn't really make much sense to me. I mean, Greg Roman gone. How many points did they hold the Cardinals to last week? Like 18 points. That was one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL. And then they come in and they hold, the Brady-less Pats to 0 points. Still astonishing. So that was pretty surprising. But anyway, Bills sit at 2-2. I don't know when their next home game is, but whenever that is, like the entire like population of Buffalo is just gonna go mad for that game because like any glimmer of hope, like Buffalo fans are gonna be crushing tables left and right at their tailgate. That's just kind of like their staple. But definitely disappointing. I was pretty disappointed from the Pats. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett isn't like top. I don't really think he's a starting caliber quarterback at all. I mean, he played well against the Texans, but it definitely. I mean, it wasn't surprising to see the Patriots lose this game because it's really hard to go 4-0 without Brady. But a little disappointing just to see them play that poorly.
Yeah, obviously, I echo those sentiments. Being a Pats fan, I was heavily disappointed. But, I mean, we really didn't play that horribly. The offense was pretty stagnant the whole game, so that was kind of the bad part. But on defense, we played pretty well, held them to only 1 offensive touchdown and then 3 field goals to give them those 16 points. And we were pretty much in this game until, 4 or 5 minutes left when we turned the ball over on that last possession and the Bills got it back. So we were in this till the very end, and if we could have just put up a touchdown, I remember specifically that one drive where we were in the red zone and it was 3rd down. Brissett tried to run, and instead of just going down and sliding, he tried to get the first down and kind of just run through a linebacker, and he fumbled the ball, and the Bills picked up on like the 14-yard line. So just to get any points in that situation, even a field goal I think would have helped, but turning the ball over in the red zone, that's usually not something the Pats do. So, it was a tough game, but 3-1 without Brady is still super awesome, and going to Cleveland next week is going to be a great welcome back game for Brady. So I'm still optimistic.
And I know there were like a lot of people, not going to name names, that after like the success that you saw with like Brissett and Garoppolo were like kind of knocking Brady. Obviously not going to name names here. But they were just kind of saying that maybe Tom Brady is just a system quarterback, which obviously is not true anymore because they lost without him. So do you think that those people's assumptions were wrong, saying that Brady was just a product of the system?
I don't think anyone's ever said that, first of all. Second of all, I'd like to pose a new question. Christian, you can answer this first. Obviously, the Pats are a lot different team without Brady. Brady makes them very good, elite, in fact. Is this loss a cause for concern at all, or is this to be expected with the situation they were put in?
Well, do you mean like for the season going forward?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's a cause for concern going forward in the season, just because I think if Brady's in this game, they win it just because the defense played well enough. I mean, giving up 16 points is not, a bad game on the defensive side. Only one touchdown and the other 3 were field goals. So giving up 16 points, I'm very confident that if Brady was in this game, he would have controlled the offense a lot better, probably taking care of the ball in those red zone situations. And especially, I think what Brady does better than most quarterbacks is those third down situations, third and short to third and medium, where he just kind of, dances around in the pocket and sometimes evades pressure and just finds those open passing lanes to get the ball to Edelman or Amendola in those big third down situations. So I definitely think we put up more than 16 points if Brady's in. So, his value it's unable to be overexpressed as far as what he brings to the table offensively. And Gronk was, he played, but he wasn't full speed. So I think just as the season goes on, the Patriots are just going to get stronger. I'm really happy with what the defense is doing, though. So, no, I'm not concerned.
I'm definitely kind of nervous for that game that the Bills and the Pats play next, because the line for that game's got to be at least 25.5. There's no way that the Patriots don't hang 50 points on them. They're going to be playing angry that game.
Up next, we have a real barn burner, an NFC South showdown in what was supposed to be one of the best teams this year in the Carolina Panthers, but that has not been the case. The Atlanta Falcons toppled them 48-33. Matt Ryan and Julio Jones both had historical days. Matt Ryan threw for 503 yards and 4 touchdowns. My goodness. Julio, 300 yards, 1 touchdown. Those are some video game numbers. Guys, I guess my first question is, what's wrong with the Panthers?
I think a little bit of everything right now is wrong with the Panthers. You look at this game, the offense was pretty good. 33 points should be enough to win you a game in the NFL, but you just look at the defense, they were the best defense, one of the best defenses in the NFL last year. They just lost Norman. I guess they lost Charles Tillman too, right? I guess so. They lost 2 of their best corners, but I didn't really think they would be that much worse than last year, so that's very surprising to see. But a lot of this is more so the Falcons playing well. They always tend to do this. Falcons always get off to hot starts. What were they, 6-0 last year at some point, and then 5-0. How many games did they win? 7? Something like that. So the Falcons always tend to get off to these hot starts. So it's definitely a little bit of the Panthers not playing at their best and the Falcons just getting hot. But, you got to look at the play of Cam Newton. Obviously, he's not going to repeat what he did last year, but you expect your MVP quarterback to be a little better than that, smarter. And the hit that knocked him out of the game was 100% his fault. It was a tough hit to take, maybe a little dirty, but it was definitely within the legal confines of the game. But he was just kind of lollygagging there in the end zone and just got popped. So he's probably going to miss a game or 2. So it's not really looking good for the Panthers right now. And then with the 1-3 hole, the Falcons are 4-1. That's going to be a tough hole to dig themselves out of with Derek Anderson now as their quarterback for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, Cam Newton, I like him because I think he's a great player and I love watching him play. He's obviously electrifying. But just the stuff he does, on the play that he got hurt when he just kind of lollygags into the end zone, and he tends to do it a lot on plays that are pretty close, plays where he's barely getting into the end zone and he kind of starts jogging towards the end of it. And I think it's just his cockiness kind of that, and that's what I don't like about his game, because just he has this aura of kind of being pretentious when he's out there, and then he gets smacked like this, and it's kind of you should just shut up, and if you're going to score. But, the showboating and all that, I'm cool with that once he's in the end zone. But just, while he's still on the field to play, yeah, like you're going to get popped if you try to just jog into the end zone. But I mean, the Falcons, they beat the Panthers last year, if I remember correctly, late in the season.
That was their only
Yeah,
loss.
their only loss last year. So Dan Quinn, great coach, has those Falcons fired up, and they look pretty good. I think they're first in the NFC South after this win. So, yeah, I mean, the Panthers are going to have to pick it up if they want to try to squeak out a wild card spot, which I do think they'll do. But, yeah, I mean, right now the Falcons have the division they have the reins.
Yeah, I still definitely think like the Panthers are the best team in the division and one of the best teams in the NFC by far. So I don't see the Falcons holding on to this first place lead in the NFC South, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Panthers end up winning division. But still, it's a tough hole to dig yourself into. I mean, 1-3. I mean, every game in the NFL really matters. There's only 16 of them, so you really just gotta like win the ones that you're supposed to win, and the Panthers have not been doing that at all.
I disagree. I think the Panthers obviously had a great year last year, going 15-1, making it to the Super Bowl, then getting humiliated. I think there might be some carryover from that because this year they just have not been the same. It just appears they haven't had the same swagger, the same confidence level. They just haven't really played as a cohesive unit. If you break it down individually, Cam Newton himself has not been that impressive this year. I mean, he won MVP last year, right?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Positive. Yeah.
MVP last year, not playing up to it this year at all. Before he was injured, his numbers were not that good. He only had 165 yards with 1 touchdown. I mean, so far this season, he has not been that impressive. Obviously, Kelvin Benjamin is a great weapon for them, and he's been finding him. But, I mean, it just seems like defensively especially, they're really struggling. I mean, anytime you give up more than 40 points, you're not going to win games. It seems like they're having trouble covering the deep ball. Seems like losing Norman maybe had a bigger effect than they really thought it would. Moving to the next game on the slate, we have a very, very entertaining contest. The Oakland Raiders at the Baltimore Ravens. Two very good teams and two teams that didn't have too high of expectations. This game had 4 fourth-quarter touchdowns. Michael Crabtree had himself a day. Crabtree had 3 total touchdowns, 88 yards receiving, 7 receptions. Derek Carr only threw for 199 yards, but he threw for 4 touchdowns. So overall, that's a pretty good day. On the other side there, Flacco had 298 yards in the score. Not bad at all. And Baltimore's new running back, Terrence West. Impressive day. 21 carries for 113 yards and 1 touchdown. The Raiders ended up sticking out the win here on the road, 28-27. They improved to 3-0 on the road and 3-1 overall. What did you guys think about this one?
I mean, I look at this game and I just look at Derek Carr. I mean, the dude is just fantastic. I did a quick little stat check. Guy has 9 touchdowns and 1 interception this year. I don't know if he leads the league in touchdowns, but that's definitely up there. Definitely a dark horse MVP candidate at this point. No one's really running away with that. So definitely keep your eye on Derek Carr. But it's definitely very refreshing to see the Raiders get off to this nice little 3-1 start. I don't know how it's going to last. I think it's going to last a while. They definitely seem like a team that's capable of making it into the playoffs. I don't know about a deep playoff push, but they definitely seem like a team that can make it into the playoffs. So it's very good to see from the Raiders. Jack Del Rio, gotta love the guy. The dude just goes for it. Gotta respect that. He's a wild boy, certified wild boy. And then on the Ravens, I mean, I don't really know how good of a team they are. I don't know. They haven't really played the best of competition. Joe Flacco did all he could to really win this game. Defense is up. They're just kind of like a mediocre team, in my opinion. So definitely some good, not great 3-1 teams.
Yeah. I mean, the Ravens were very sneakily undefeated coming into this game, and the Raiders had some big statement wins against New Orleans. And then coming into this game, I have, Amari Cooper on my fantasy team, and I thought he was going to be, huge this year. But really, it's Crabtree that's been playing out of his mind so far this year. I assume because people are focusing so much on Amari Cooper, but Crabtree's really revitalized his career here in Oakland after he went through those good years in San Francisco, and then he was kind of irrelevant, but now he's, doing so well in Oakland. So Jack Del Rio, I love, his style of coaching. I love how he seems to have these guys motivated. And, I mean, this was a great game to watch, back and forth, deep into the fourth quarter. And Derek Carr, I mean, I've only seen a few of his games that I've watched all the way through, but it seems like, every other game I watch with him, he's leading a fourth quarter comeback and winning them the game. So he's shown a lot of poise, and I don't know if I'd put him in that category as MVP candidate just yet, but obviously 9-1 is a very good touchdown interception ratio. And he's playing very well. So the Oakland Raiders, I think, are definitely on the up. And it's exciting to see what they'll do moving forward.
Yeah, I definitely agree with pretty much everything you guys said. Derek Carr has been very impressive this year. It seems like he just takes a step every year to improve, and that's a great sign if you're a Raiders fan. You always want your quarterback to improve each year, and I think he's taking the steps to do that. I also would agree that Jack Del Rio is definitely the early runaway favorite for Coach of the Year. I mean, yes, this roster has talent, but it's very young overall, and they picked up a lot of free agents, especially defensively. And so, football is such a chemistry game that for him to get all these guys playing together for each other, that just speaks volumes for him. And this Raider team is definitely off to a hot start. We head to the Bay Area for the next one. We have the Dallas Cowboys at the San Francisco 49ers. Kind of a sloppy game in the first half, but the Cowboys were able to secure the road victory 24-17 to improve to 3-1 on the year. Dak Prescott continuing his impressive rookie career start. He had 245 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns, and continuing his streak of no interceptions. Ezekiel Elliott ran wild. 23 carries for 138 yards and 1 touchdown. On the other side, the Niners, Carlos Hyde had a pretty good day, 74 yards and a touchdown. But the biggest news coming out of this game is I read a report earlier today that Navarro Bowman tore his Achilles and he'll be out for the rest of the year. So that pretty much takes any hope the Niners fans had this year right out the window. What did you guys think of this one?
You really just got to give a round of applause to the play of Dak Prescott. With a 4th-round draft pick, comes in, gets the starting job due to Romo going down, and has really shown that he deserves to keep the starting job for the rest of the season. I think the Cowboys are going to have a tough decision come Week 8 when Romo's supposedly going to be healthy, because if Dak Prescott keeps this play up, I think he's really shown that he deserves to be the starter of this team.
Yeah, Dak Prescott still hasn't thrown an interception yet in his NFL career, and I think that's one of the biggest things for young quarterbacks is just taking care of the ball and making the most out of the opportunities you have when you're down there in the red zone and whatnot. Also, a lot of poise shown, I think, by the Cowboys in this game. They went down early on. It was 14-0. San Francisco jumped out to an early lead, and I was sitting on the couch right here with my buddy Nate Smith. I was like, hey, Nate, not looking good. And Nate was like, gosh, we're going to get blown out. But the Cowboys weren't thinking that.
But they didn't get blown out.
They were like,
Nate was wrong.
They were like, let's go, guys. Let's get it together. And I think they came together as a team and just powered through and ended up coming back in this game, winning it 24-17. So the Cowboys moved to 3-1. Very surprising. But yeah, I think Dak Prescott, if he keeps playing the way he has, doesn't turn the ball over and keeps leading them to these gritty wins, I think he should at least kind of be in the conversation for keeping that starting job with Romo coming back, because he has the Cowboys playing good football against some reasonably good opponents. So we'll see if he continues this streak.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that Dak Prescott has done really well throughout the young season is he's shown that he can spread the ball around really well, multiple receivers. I think he does that a little bit better than Romo. Obviously, Romo's a top-caliber quarterback, but he just gets all the receivers involved, and then the running game has looked great. Ezekiel Elliott the last 2 games has really turned it on. The offensive line's been doing well. Not against the best defenses, but still, it's great to get Ezekiel some confidence heading in to the season. So, Nate, let's say come Week 8, let's say Cowboys are sitting at 5-3, 6-2, and Dak Prescott continues to play well. Are you starting Tony Romo or Dak Prescott? Which one of those 2 guys are you going with?
I can understand where this will definitely be, if that's a scenario, if they have 5 to 6 wins when Romo is available to return, I definitely can understand why that would be a tough scenario. But at the same time, I think you got to put Romo back in. I mean, yes, I understand the knock on him is that he does not have the clutch time wins, the playoff wins. But, I mean, he's been a pretty great regular season quarterback. He leads the franchise in passing yards with 2 historical quarterbacks, Roger Staubach and Troy Aikman, so that's no small feat. And I just think that, yes, the offense has looked good, but I think Romo takes it to that next level that makes the Cowboys an elite offense.
I think the one thing that Romo has on Dak Prescott, we haven't really seen much of like the big play that Romo, like that like Romo to Dez connection, those big plays that Romo always have where he like extends the play. We haven't really seen much of that. I don't know if that's not really like the Cowboys not opening up the playbook fully to Dak Prescott, because it's been a lot of like slants, crossing routes, and checkdowns from Dak. So I'd be interested to see later on in the season if they really start taking some more shots downfield.
Yeah, I would like to see some more shots taken as well. But, yeah, I do agree that the receiving core, and especially Dez Bryant, would definitely benefit more from Romo. They built a pretty solid connection for, I think Dez has been in the league 6 or 7 years, and they're a pretty lethal duo when they're both in sync. So, and it's not like putting Romo back in hurts your chances of winning. I think he still gives us the best chance to win. Obviously, the main concern is his health, and at least this time, and obviously we hope this doesn't happen. But if he is to return and possibly get injured again, at least now the Cowboys know that they found a guy that can win some games and not be screwed at backup like we were last year with Matt Castle. So I think this is definitely a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I definitely think the future is bright for the Cowboys. I mean, just on offensively, their offensive line, they're all Pro Bowlers, and they're all like 23 years old. And then you have Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott, who are definitely here to stay. I think the Cowboys are like maybe like a top-notch corner and like a very good pass rusher away from being a Super Bowl contender within the next 2 years. I think those are the 2 things that they're missing on their defense. And if they were to get that, then that would really push them over the top.
Yeah, we haven't had some good news is this week against the Bengals, we have our best pass rusher, DeMarcus Lawrence, returning. He had 8 sacks in the last 8 games for last season. He was suspended for the first 4. And then we get Randy Gregory back. I believe it's week 10. He's our other defensive end. But, yeah, our pass rush ever since DeMarcus Ware left has been pretty pathetic. So far to this point in the season, we've generated little to no pressure on the quarterback. And when you can't get pressure on good quarterbacks like Rodgers and Breeze and Roethlisberger, that causes problems. So the D-line definitely needs some improvement, and hopefully DeMarcus Lawrence can give us the boost that we need. Monday Night Football was a doozy. The Minnesota Vikings, a.k.a. the Purple People Eaters, are on fire. They are 4-0 with Sammy Sleeves at the helm and no Adrian Peterson. If that's not scary, I don't know what is. This team is terrifying to me. I think if you can do this with a quarterback who's been in your system for, 3 weeks, and Hall of Fame running back not playing and still beat a team in the New York Giants, pretty good ball club, 24-10. I mean, what do you guys take from this?
I mean, definitely the Vikings are here to stay. 4-0. They've played some great teams. They pretty much dominated the Panthers for all intents and purposes. Beat the Packers. Giants are a good, not great team. So very impressed from the Vikings. I'm impressed with Bradford. I think a lot of people unjustly kind of knocked him last year when he was on the Eagles. When he was on the Eagles, they had like the worst running offense, worst receivers. They led the league in drops. They had a really kind of sketchy offensive line, not the best O-line. So obviously Bradford suffered, but he had a strong end to the second half of the year. He really hangs in the pocket. He throws a good ball. He's accurate. Doesn't have the strongest arm, but he's a very accurate quarterback. So I think this is a good fit for the Vikings, who is a team who likes to rely heavily on the run game and their defense. So he's a great fit for the Vikings, and I wouldn't be surprised if he even is their quarterback of the future at this point. No one's saying that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be able to come back by the beginning of season and next year, just from hearing the extent of his injury. So definitely a great win for the Vikings.
Yeah, once again, I mean, the Vikings defense, top 2, along with the Broncos in the NFL. They showed it again here, holding the Giants to only 10 points. Another big takeaway that I got out of this game, though, was Odell Beckham Jr. Held to 23 yards, which was his career low. And, I mean, the Vikings obviously have a pretty good secondary, Xavier Rhodes, Harrison Smith, those boys. But Odell Beckham shut down in this game completely and kind of lost his cool at points once again for the second game in a row. Got that taunting penalty, which cost his team 10 yards when he kind of tried to get in Xavier Rhodes' face on the sideline. So I think that's like the biggest thing I'm taking away from it is just other teams have got to be looking at the Giants and seeing how Odell has been losing his cool and kind of thinking like, wow, like we know we can get under this guy's skin, and if we do, then, you know, we take him out of his game, and he posts 23 yards, which is his career low. And in the second half, he had no receptions. So I think just if you're Odell Beckham, you got to get that under control and stop, you know, outwardly showing your emotions so much, because it seems to be costing him personally a great deal with his performance, and that, you know, affects his team because he's their biggest weapon.
Yeah, I mean, the dude is an all-time talent. I mean, just the resume that he's put up to this point, just the numbers he's gotten, and definitely an early Hall of Fame candidate just with the talent and the way that his career is headed. But this is like a thing where if he doesn't make a change soon, this could end like very badly for him. We've seen wide receivers like this who have made the change. Like Des Bryant earlier on in his career was like this. He would throw all these temper tantrums on the sideline, be a distraction to his team, and he's kind of changed his ways. And he just kind of like lifts up his teammates and is very passionate and kind of turned that into his passion for the game. And I think Odell needs to do that at some point in his career, or else this is going to just spiral out of control.
Yeah, I mean, from the perspective of the Giants coaching staff, I mean, they had to be furious. I read a report that the general manager actually had a one-on-one meeting with Odell to just try and see where his head's at, because I mean, the Giants, no, they probably won't make the playoffs this year, but like they have potential to be a pretty good team. And when your best player is constantly getting stupid penalties or causing dramatic antics on the sidelines or constantly, you know, chirping at the refs, you know, it's a distraction for the whole team, the whole franchise. Coaches or players should not have to be dealing with that while the game is happening, or like even during practice. It's unexcusable, and he's got to get that figured out. Or I mean, this is a cutthroat business, and if these antics keep going on for the rest of the year, I could honestly see the Giants cutting ties with him, because no matter how good of a player you are, if you're not in it mentally, if you can't get yourself under control, I don't think any team will stand for it.
And I thought it was pretty interesting. I saw a post-game interview that Eli Manning did, and they were asking him about, you know, Odell and what he thinks about how he's handling stuff. And Eli pretty much had, like, no sympathy for Odell. He was just like, yeah, like, he needs to get that under control. Like, he can't be doing that, blah, blah, blah. So I think Eli might be getting, like, a little fed up with kind of the antics that Odell is putting out there. And they just don't seem to me like they have, like, a very good relationship, like, quarterback-receiver. So I don't know. I would hate to see such a great talent like Odell kind of get known as a team wrecker, kind of like Terrell Owens was when he just blew through teams and just like had horrible relationships with the quarterbacks, and like the fans ended up like not liking him because of it. So I would hate for Odell to have to like go down that road. I think he just needs to kind of put his ego aside and just focus on producing, because I mean, this was a problem even when he put up, you know, 100 yards plus against Josh Norman. But when you put up 23 yards and do this kind of stuff, it just gets old pretty fast. So
Yeah, I think the Giants they're at a crisis right now, and I know ESPN's having a field day with this. I was watching the Eli Manning presser, and the little ticker under his name said Eli Manning, Odell Beckham's teammate for the last 3 years. So this can really spiral out of control quickly. So he's definitely got to change his act.
And now it's time for Fantasy Heroes of Week 4. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to my fantasy team, defeating Cray this week by 1 point. The game was very intense, very ugly, by a margin of 67 to 66. Without further ado, my fantasy hero, my team played really bad this week. If you couldn't tell, 67 points, that's not good. But I will give it to my Vikings defense that I started against Eli Manning and the Giants. You know, they did enough. They did enough to get the win. They got me 7 fantasy points. They held the Giants to 10 points, had 1 interception and 1 fumble recovery. So thank you, Purple People Eaters.
My fantasy hero of the week is Julio Jones. He had a lot of points, 36 of them, 300 yards. If this was PPR, he would have a lot more than 36 points. I'm trying to do the math in my head real quick. But anyway, the dude just flat out dominated the Panthers. It seems like every possession that the Falcons had, he was at least had like 25 receiving yards. The dude's a monster. My team's back to 2-2, where they should be, and now we're just all uphill climbing from here, baby.
All right. My fantasy hero hails from one out of my 4 teams, the Brady Boys, and it is Blake Bortles, quarterback for the Jags. Not only did he beat the Indianapolis Colts, which is hero-worthy in my book, but he also threw for 207 yards, 2 scores, plus a rushing touchdown. Ended up having 26.5 points total, which led me to a victory, brought me to 2-2 on the season. So thank you, Blake.
And now it's time for Fantasy Duds of the Week. This week, we have Brandon Cooks, wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints. 3 receptions for 31 yards for 3 fantasy points. Hey, Brandon, last week you had 1 point. Can we please step it up?
Well,
I drafted you in like the 3rd round. I need some production.
He's kind of progressing, so he's getting better. So you can commend the progress, because last week he had 1 point, and this week he had 3. So he's definitely maybe due for a big week next week.
He's on a bye. If he gets me 5 in 2 weeks, I guess we're moving in the right direction. All right, who's your dud?
My dud is Steven Gostkowski, who got me -1 points because he missed a field goal, and usually he doesn't miss field goals, so that was a little annoying. This is actually the 2nd time I've started a guy who's got me negative points this year. That usually doesn't happen, so that was pretty disappointing, Steven. And if you do another week like that, I might have to cut him. Cray, I'm sorry, I might have to cut the hometown boy.
No offense taken. My fantasy dud comes from my Crease Criminals squad, who played Nate Smith over there this week.
It's a scary sounding team.
Oh, 100%. We were both 3-0 coming into this game, 2 elite fantasy squads that kind of had off weeks. But my fantasy dud is DeAndre Hopkins. 1 reception, 4 yards. Against the Tennessee Titans defense, DeAndre, that's not acceptable. I don't understand how, if you're the Houston Texans, you don't get the ball to DeAndre Hopkins more. And they actually ended up winning this game, 27-20. So it's like, I don't understand.
So is it safe to say that the Texans are better without DeAndre Hopkins?
I don't even know what to say. 1 reception, 4 yards is unacceptable.
Sounds like a safe assumption to me.
DeAndre Hopkins had 0 points and ended up losing me the game.
This week's installment of guys who wish it was week 17. My selection, head coach of the San Diego Chargers, Mike McCoy.
I like that one a lot, Nate.
They are a whopping 1-3. He has lost his 2 best offensive players, not named Phillip Rivers, Woodhead and Keenan Allen. And they just blew another late lead to the New Orleans Saints. So, yeah, Mike's just waiting for week 17 because I think the boot's coming. But, he's probably not too upset about that because I think he's pretty angry at his job. So, yeah. Mike McCoy.
Getting run out of San Diego might not be the worst thing at this point. So he's looking to hit the simulate button on this season and just get towards week 7. My guy who wish it was week 17 the most has to go to ex-Ravens running back Justin Forsett. I think he was cut by the team before the season started, and then signed again by the team, and then got benched heading into this game, and then got cut again. So I think he's looking to set the record for most times cut and signed by the same team. So he's at 2 right now. Another one will get the hat trick. So at least by week 17, he'll have been released and cut by the Ravens like another 4 times. So that'll be 7. So he's looking to enshrine his name in the Hall of Fame for most times being released and cut. So he's definitely looking forward to that.
My pick for person who most wants it to be week 17 is Andrew Luck, who I not so warmly refer to as Andrew Suck at times.
That was clever.
Yeah, Andrew Luck is not looking so great. He had that comeback win against the Chargers, which was a little bit of a bright point in the season so far. But then he turned around and lost to the winless Jags. So he can't be feeling too good about his prospects right now in the season, especially with the Texans at 3-1. So it looks like the Colts are going to have a tough time nabbing a playoff spot. So, yeah, Andrew Luck is just realizing, like, this season's not one that is going my way, and he just wants it to be week 17.
Well, that just about does it, folks. Once again, we had a great time. We hope you had a great time. This concludes episode 4 of 4th and Inches.